Woo! Welcome everybody to the Fight Club, aka the Jordan. How you guys doing tonight? Good, good. Hey, this is our last week in the Fight Club series. So as usual, this is the relationship panel. I know it's sad, but I am stoked. Next week we start our new series, Come Hell or High Water, a study on the life of Noah. But with that, hey, I wanted just to preface something a little bit here as far as why we do a panel. It's not just because we want people up here just to talk about what they think about relationships or whatnot, but it says in the Bible that that a wise man learns from instruction, that a wise man receives counsel, he receives advice, and that a fool disbelieves his way is right. And what you guys have done for the past week or so is you've texted in questions that you want to know the answers to. And we have some people up here that are going to give as wise counsel as they can. They'll be speaking, of course, biblically. All the relationship advice and whatnot that we give up here tonight will be biblical, except for, that's always kind of weird to say, it'll all be biblical except for the things that aren't necessarily spoken about in the Bible. Then as far as there'll be some areas where it might be a little bit of opinion or what each couple does personally. And with that, it says, too, in the Bible that man's plans fail for lack of wise counsel, but with many advisors, they succeed. And so tonight we have many advisors, and if you will listen to them and you'll take notes, and even if it's not necessarily the question that you want asked, there may be a time where you're asking that question, and you can look back upon your notes and see what was talked about here tonight. And as far as many advisors, the couples up here tonight, and they'll talk a little bit more themselves, but they come from all different walks of life and backgrounds and whatnot. So each has their own particular context for their relationships. And I'm excited. I hope you guys are excited too. I'm going to pray real quick and then invite the man, the myth, the legend, Andrew Pulfer up here to host us. Woo! So Father, we come tonight and Lord, we just ask that our hearts would be open. God, we ask that, God, that you would speak directly to us where we're at in life, what we're going through, what we're facing in our relationships and our marriage, or eventually our soon-to-be relationships and marriages. God, we love you, and we thank you that you care so much about us, that within your word, you wrote about these things to make things clear for us here today. Lord, we love you, and we ask that you would speak through each and every person on this stage tonight. In Jesus' name. And all God's people said, amen. I'd like to invite to the stage Andrew Pulfer, my beautiful wife, Erin Moores, the incredible couple, the Cavaliers, and the one and only not infamous, but famous Hodsons. Can we give everyone a round of applause? Woo.
How's everybody doing tonight? Excellent. Why don't you guys take a moment right now and grab a pen, grab a piece of paper if you got it available. Do we have the theme music? It's not necessary, but it would really paint the. It's all right.
It might be kind of cool. Can we play
waiting
that?
To take
Somebody missed a cue.
Away.
From here.
Skip it. We'll skip it. Hey. Everybody give it a little wiggle. We're going to loosen up the place. Everybody stand up for a moment here and get a little wiggle.
Come on. Hey. These people are cool. Those people not so much. Okay, thank you. All right.
All right, so we're going to introduce our wonderful, lovely couples this evening. We've got the Hodsons. Do we have that wedding photo up there?
Woo! Hey.
Why don't you grab the mic there, Mike Hodson, and introduce your beautiful bride. And tell us a little bit about yourself. How many kids you have and how quickly they all came.
My name is Michael Robert Hodson the First. This is Katrina Louise Hodson the First, the only. We got 4 kids about 6 months ago, so it's proof that. Never mind, I'm not going to go there yet. So
yeah, that'll be a later question.
Yeah, no, we'll get to that. So married for just about 10 years. I love being loud and annoying and obnoxious, and Katrina is the wise counsel. So if she looks nervous, it's because she is. So please don't look at my wife. And we'll be okay. So that's us in a nutshell.
Excellent. And over here we have the Cavaliers. Why don't you say hello and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Woo! That's a hot photo right there. That's a good-looking couple.
We're Mr. and Mrs. Cavalier. This is my wife, Alyssa. My name is James. We will be married 2 years at the end of next month. So we've got years, almost literally, of marriage experience and wisdom.
Wait, how long did you guys date for? You guys dated a long time.
We dated a long time, but we dated 4 years before we got married. So, if that's a question on there, how long you should date, don't take my advice. But I'm just kidding. It worked now. All right, we're here. My wife's a kindergarten teacher. I work here at the Jordan. We're excited to be here with you guys. That photo is taken by Kelsey Brewer.
Kelsey Brewer.
Baller.
And over here we have the Moores.
Look at that right there.
And I always love the earring on the man.
Shit, I'll bring it back, dude. Both.
How many of you want to see
Both.
Jeff teaching
Both.
an earring from now on?
No.
How about the next time you? Yeah. All right.
So this is my wife, Erin Moores, right here. We've been married for 13 years. We've got 3 kids, 11, 9, and 7. 2 girls and then a boy. We dated for 6 months, got engaged, and we're married 9 months later. I don't necessarily recommend that either.
It turned out all right.
It did. And Erin gets to stay at home and take care of her kids and take care of me. Do you want to say anything? Okay. Cheers.
Wonderful. Let's give him a hand.
Let's give us a hand.
All right, we're going to start with some light questions. All of these questions that are hearing are from you, the Jordan. You've texted in your questions, and we are going to verbally give the answers. Isn't that right, guys?
Verbally. Correct.
Yes. Excellent. We're going to start with the light question. Why is it so hard for guys to do the little things like buying flowers or little surprises? Which couple? I enjoyed Mike Hodson's look the best on the reaction there.
Because they're guys. We're thinking more about sport, music, and beef jerky, and not flowers. So that is the truth.
The truth is that flowers die and they're a waste of money. That's what he says.
Come on.
So never in 10 years has he bought me flowers. So we are the wrong people to answer this question.
Next couple, Cavaliers.
Oh.
But he does nice things for me.
I don't know why some guys don't do that. I don't know. I think we just don't, at least for me, I don't put a lot of like emphasis on stuff when she does it. Like when she does that stuff for me, it's awesome, but I'm not like, it doesn't like, I don't know. Maybe it's not my love language, like gifts and little things like that. But if it's something you want, ask for it. And sorry.
Where's that from?
It's from Active.
Oh, excellent choice. All right, we're going to go a little heavier here into the questions.
I was just going to boast on my man a little bit and say
Boast.
he knows that I love getting stuff, and so he gets it for me. So I've got a good man.
Did you give him that earring, though, in the photo?
I have to say I did force him to get piercing number 2. I did. It was my choice, and I
Wait a
was
minute.
into it.
They
I was
still-
into it.
We
I
have
was
to
real into
reapply the piercing, I believe. All right, so last Thursday, Jeff, this is for you, as well as anyone who else has an answer they like to give. Last Thursday, during the Fight for Purity message, you mentioned that a way to help you stay pure is to stay away from the treat so you won't eat the fruit. If you and your boyfriend, girlfriend have already eaten the fruit and find it difficult to stay away from the tree no matter how many boundaries are set, what should we do?
Yeah, that's bogus. You obviously haven't set strong enough boundaries. You have self-control. And like I think I said last week too, the self-control that you have to sin, you have the same self-control not to sin. And there are places you can go together where you can still be together and talk and be relational, where you won't be tempted to go there. Like, for instance, I doubt any of you are going to be tempted to eat the fruit, quote unquote, in the middle of Starbucks. And if you do, then there's like something completely different going on that needs to be fixed there. But I would say that you can really set up boundaries in your relationship, or if you really cannot, get married or break up. Paul says it's better to be married than to burn with passion. So,
Anybody have anything to add to that?
I'm just saying, Jeff, there's plenty of places you could be tempted to eat the fruit. I'm just saying.
but like in the middle of Starbucks, bro.
We gotta go.
Thank you, Hotsons, for
Because she wants some fruit.
I think that
well,
okay, bringing it back, I think that it's very important that both of you are on the same page, that you both communicate with each other, because it might be that one person really wants to not eat the fruit, if that's what are we saying this? I don't know. Is this that what we're saying? I don't know, is that what we're saying?
analogy is stuck.
To cross that line, and the other one says they want to do that, but really like their heart isn't in it. So you both really need to be honest with each other in that communication and knowing that you're both on the same page in that and really, being honest with one another.
Cool. All right, so this question has something to do with codependency, and oftentimes can happen when the forbidden fruit is been made available. What's the difference between being needy and just being yourself? Or how do you not obsess over your significant other? And what point does it become idolatry? And how do you avoid that? So this is pretty heavy.
I thought we were starting out light.
One light question. We went. Yeah. I'll lighten it after this one.
Is your relationship pushing you towards God or drawing you away from God? Because if it's one of those things that you are compromising your beliefs, your faiths, your standards for this person, then yeah, I think it's idolatry, or at least it's not healthy. But if it's somebody that is encouraging you and spurring you on, for a nice churchy word right there, getting you going towards the right direction, then yeah, it's healthy. And if it's obsession, I think about my wife, but at the same time, I can move on about my day. I do care about her, and I think, hey, I wonder what she's doing right now. But if that thought doesn't cross my mind for 8 hours, it's okay. We're still all right, If anything goes down, she'll call me. We have emergency contacts in case she gets hurt or drops dead. There's no reason to obsess about it. I think if there's that much obsession, we got bigger issues, and it's not relationship issues. Well, it's relationship issues, but it's like waking them up in the middle of the night, saying, hey, you're snoring, and you don't even live with them. So that's just creepy. So just saying. Y'all got problems.
I think also just on the needy topic, if you're not getting something from your relationship that you want to, like communicating that to your significant other is important. And if they're not willing to do that, then you got to ask yourself, is this who you want to be with, continue to be with? I don't know, I'm reading into that question too much, but if this is a lady thinking that she's a little needy, Jeff mentioned it in his message a couple weeks ago. The guys don't always pick up on that stuff. We don't always read into your moods and like your tone of voice and like your fine answer. And so, to communicate to them, tell them what you want. And if it's more than they're willing to give, then maybe you guys need to reevaluate your relationship.
Which leads me to, guys think about marriage as much as girls do.
Do you guys think? Do they? Is that what it is? Yeah. Do you guys think about marriage as much as girls do? No. Next question. No. That's as deep as I got right there. I don't know. Shoot, you're not gonna help me out on that one. No, I don't think they do. I think
so. When you guys were first dating, one of you couples, who was the one that began the talk about? Well, what do you want to? Is this a marriage thing?
Me. That one was me. That one was me. Yeah.
Well, 6 months to
Yeah, I think I think that it really. I guess it depends upon the guy and whatnot. Guys have a completely different view of relationships than girls do. Guys don't necessarily think about getting married; they think about being married. And women tend to think more about the getting married and the wedding and what's going to happen at the wedding and the stuff leading up to it. And guys, most of the time, don't really. Sound blunt, don't really care. They're like, as long as I'm going to be married to you, that's all that really matters. And so they tend to think about being married and what life is going to be like. And that way we think about how are we going to provide, how are we going to take care of, how are we going to do that stuff. What is life going to be like? And for me, what she's talking about is that was my thing with her is I was looking at her going, is this someone I'm going to be married to? Is this someone that I can spend life with, that we can do things? When I picture my future with my kids and hanging out and having fun at the beach, is she the woman that's there? And so I don't think the guys necessarily think about marriage so much and weddings so much as they think about just life and what's going to happen.
But I think that's pretty cool, right?
Yes.
It's cool that guys they're thinking a different way, right? Because they're thinking, okay, I love this chick and I want to be married to her. I don't really necessarily care about what venue we choose or what flowers in her bouquet, but I do want to be married to her. And not only, it doesn't stop there, like what Jeff said. He's thinking about, how do I provide for her? How do I give her the life she deserves? How do I cherish her? How do I honor her? How do I support her? And so if those are the kinds of things that they're thinking about, I never thought of it like that. Like Jeff, when you said no, they don't think about marriage, I was like, oh, what? That's so sad, But now in the 30 seconds I've been thinking about it, that's pretty awesome. Because girls are, naturally, I would say, more emotional, and we do care about the wedding, and we do care about the family and the ceremony and the intimacy of it all. And guys just want to know, how am I going to pay the rent? I just want to be able to pay the rent and keep a roof over her head. And if she likes flowers, I want to be able to afford them, because that's a nice thing to do.
Now, don't get me wrong, ladies. We're going to lie to you and say, oh, I care. I care. We don't care. Yeah, I know the question was who brought it up. I brought it up because when I met Katrina, after getting to know her and dating her, it was like, yeah, this will work, And I say that as completely unromantic as possible because let me say this, and we've all been there. You've had those feelings and those emotions, and maybe you've tasted the fruit, and then y'all got to talk about something. So I was very honest with her that, hey, I like your personality, your family's pretty cool, we get along about a lot of stuff. We should do this for life, Yeah, there were emotions and there were feelings, but trust me, once the honeymoon's over, you get back home and you're hanging out, you're like, oh, this is awesome. You're going to wake up the first day and be like, oh, I love her. Then you can wake up the second day and go, oh, yeah, I love her. You wake up the third day and it's like, this is kind of weird. She's still here. And then you wake up like a week or two into it. No, we're finishing. You can wake up a week or two into this and she's going to have all the pillows, all the covers. You're going to be half frozen, just like, and you're thinking, I committed to this. I remember I committed to this. So, yeah, it's a different thing. 10 years, 4 kids. She's not leaving me. I don't care. So.
All right, how many of you have met online? Any of you meet online?
No.
No?
Not her.
Okay.
Saying, I have a lot of people in here that were Facebook friends, and I don't know them, but we've met online.
Would
talking
you
about-
consider online dating ungodly?
What websites are they going to? It's a tool. It's out there. You know, because you think that, oh, it's impatient. Well, if you want to look at it, say, well, biblically there weren't, online dating back then. Well, great. If you want to get traded for like goats and lumber, stick around and do a biblical relationship. You have the freedom to
What
choose.
is the going rate? What is the goat lumber ratio currently?
I think it's fine.
It depends. Yeah, it's one of those things. Hey, it's out there. It's a tool. If God is truth and God is in everything, depending on how we engage with it, yeah, get out there, meet people. I think more people have met online in the last couple of years than face to face. Now, I don't think the avenues as important as who you are and who you're acting as online, and then what happens after you meet. So, get out there, do it. Sign up for some sites. Might be some of your only hope.
It's not bad, per se. It's like Mike said, it's another place to meet people, but it does put a different spin on a relationship right off the bat because you're on there looking for relationships, and so that causes a relationship to develop differently because your first time you meet the person, you're dating them, like you're on a date with them, and so it just puts a different pressure on a relationship, I guess you'd say, before it even happens per se naturally. I think it's like 18 months is like the longevity of most online dating relationships, or they met online. Where without it, it's like 42 months for those people that just meet naturally. So you get to kind of see that the person in a friendship develop differently if you're not going to a dating site. But shoot, like Mike said, sign up, go for it.
Christian Mingle and
.com.
It'll be awesome because then you'll
Sponsored by
find other people that are in here. You're like, oh! And then you can post their profile on social media and laugh at them.
Just show hands. Who
In
here is
love.
single? Who here is single tonight? Just raise your hand.
Don't be
It's up
shy.
here.
Don't
Here we
be
go.
shy.
All right, everyone, look around. Look around.
Hold
Keep them
on,
up.
keep
Look
those
around.
hands up high.
Hold them up. Look around. There we go. JordanMingle.com. There we are. JordanMingle.com.
For the record,
Here we go.
I met my wife at the Jordans.
Hey-o!
Hey,
Jordan
Jordan
couple.
love story. Right
Proof
there.
positive it works. Come to church,
we met
find
at
a wife,
North Coast
find a
too,
husband.
so I'm just saying.
What is the proper way to pursue somebody for a relationship? James?
My wife is laughing.
Yes, let's hear it. Let's hear it from Alyssa's perspective.
I feel like she's gonna skew the story. This is what's gonna happen. So
Who wants to hear her side first, and then we'll give James an opportunity. All right.
Okay, so James and I were friends for a long time before we actually started dating. And we were watching Lost, actually. Yes, Lost fans out there. And he proceeded to hold my hand. And I was like,
Oh.
hey. I like this guy. This is cool.
Was it a scary
Okay.
moment in the show?
It was. And
Okay.
I got scared and he grabbed my hand. Good move, right? Yeah.
Opportunist.
No, I got scared.
You're an
I got scared.
opportunist.
You grabbed my hand. So I was okay with it. I was like, okay, I like this guy, Then the next night, of course, this is back-to-back night, Lost nights, obviously. He proceeds to do it again, but this time I wasn't scared. He just grabbed my hand and was holding my hand. I'm like, oh my gosh. Like, okay, this was for sure, like, on purpose. Like, what's going on here? So I proceeded to ask him, like, hey, can we talk? And he's, sure, yeah, we'll talk tomorrow. No big deal. And I was like, no, like, can we talk, And he's all, I'll call you tomorrow, yeah. I'm like, he's obviously not getting this, So I proceeded to just go in the car. I'm like, whatever, okay, fine, I'll call you tomorrow, no big deal. 3 a.m. comes around, a text comes, sorry, I'm slow, I would love to talk to you tomorrow. So we went to Panera and did a little... No, he was awake because he was talking to his friend, nailing down the situation of what went down, and then figured it out, and then
Clarifying
texted me.
questions.
Proceeded to text me, I get it in the morning, and I'm like, oh my gosh.
James,
So-
keep going.
So from there, we proceeded to go to say that we were going to meet at Panera. We sat down to talk, and I like kind of looked at him and like, hey, you know. He's like, so how's your day going? Like, da-da-da. I'm like, are you serious right now? Like, really? We're gonna go here? And I like looked at him. And I was like, so? He's like, I like you, Alyssa. I like you a lot. I'm like, I like you too. That wasn't so hard, was it? And now we're married.
Did you feel misrepresented, or is that about?
I did not feel misrepresented. I feel like maybe I would have skewed the story more than that case.
So that
But I
is
think, yeah, like Pursuit. I think Pursuit. I didn't do a great job of it, but being intentional. I didn't really know like how to. I was new.
It's a bold move.
Yeah. That was all I knew. You know, I was just like, I don't know how to say stuff, but there's her hand. Boom, go. So go for it.
And you tried the second night because she didn't say anything after the
I
first
was like,
night.
it held on. Like, Lost is a long show. So it was like, you know, we had a solid like 20 minutes of hand-holding. But I think being intentional is important. And I think being upfront with kind of, not necessarily, I mean, what you're looking for. I think like Liz said, we were friends before we dated for about 6-7 months. So I got to know her real well long before that hand-holding situation. So I had an idea of that this was somebody that I wanted to pursue, but I would have, had I to do it again, I would have been a little more intentional.
All right. So this question has to do with sexual purity, and for the couples on our panel, what is the benefit of remaining pure, like until marriage, and what is the difference between that and tasting the fruit too early, if to use the analogy? And you can be as open or as discreet as you wish.
Well, I'll go. I cannot even believe I'm answering this question, but I have a good answer. So, I told my husband, I am not talking about our sex life on that panel. But I will. I'm just teasing. When we were doing our marriage counseling, our marriage counselor guy said, listen, Mike, there's an emotional hole that you will put your wife in on your wedding night, and you will be spending the next many years of your life digging yourself out of it if you force yourself on her on your wedding night and you make her feel like she's just this like hot piece of booty that really you just can't wait to tap, you know? Like, I don't know what to say, but
Taste the fruit.
yeah, taste the fruit. So he was pretty blunt. He said, Mike, you really, 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 really need to, you know, treat her, honor her, and who cares if nothing happens on your wedding night? Well, we did save ourselves for marriage. It wasn't easy, and that's why we were engaged after 6.5 months and married before the year was up, because it was hard. But the thing that I really loved about Mike is that he really like believed that. And it really made for a really special wedding night, because I felt no pressure. Like, I don't even know, like, I'm gonna be sweaty from my dress and my hair's gonna look like crap and I don't know what this place is gonna look like, and it was just a nightmare, okay? And I walk in and, you know, we're just thinking like, is this gonna be okay? Is this gonna be weird? And it turns out like it just kind of is like perfect, you know? Yeah, we did it on our wedding night, you know, and I wasn't excited.
Amen.
I wasn't thinking that we would, but it was cool. It was a cool thing that we had a plan and we had expectations and we talked about it. And I knew that if it didn't feel right for whatever reason, that what if the wedding was a bomb and something terrible happened and it just didn't feel right, I knew we had the rest of our lives. And Mike was totally supportive of that and actually really like made me feel very comfortable with that. So it was a very special launch into our life together.
I'll go, Aaron, if you want to.
I was gonna say she one thing that Katrina said there is that we saved ourselves for each other. Once we started dating, we saved ourselves for each other. I did not save myself. So with that, there's things you don't think about when you're single and dating and chasing the fruit. One day you're going to sit down with a significant somebody and look across and say, yeah, I've done some things. Yeah, I've done plenty of things. And then there's that insecurity. We've talked about this, so we're going to talk about it with our friends now. There's that insecurity of, well, are you thinking about those people and those things? Are you comparing yourself? Are you comparing me? Will there always be that in the back of your mind where, yeah, that was all right, but remember back in 95, oh my gosh, there's that, okay? Then also with that, now I have 4 kids in my life, and one's a 14-year-old boy, and he just straight out, hey, well, what about this? And so now being a man that wants to be the right husband and be the right father, I need to go back and own that and say, hey, look, here's where I messed up, here's what I did. And then not only do I have to work extra hard in my marriage to make my wife feel like, no, before, there is no before, there is now, and there is you, but then there is also the fact that, yeah, okay, we both know it, so it can't, like, no, baby, there was nobody before you, but how you treat them and how you act and how you respond, that then makes a huge, huge effort that at 17, 18, 19, 20 years old, when I was just like, I don't care if it has a pulse, let's make out, oh, yeah, because all of you have never thought about compromising yourself with somebody that you're like, normal standards, no, but it's about midnight and no one else is hanging out. Real talk.
Thank you for dropping it like it was hot. Anybody, any other couples? Do you have any more insight?
I think Mike just said what I was wanting to say. I think just like that, if you're able to, you save yourself those tough conversations that are hard to have and can be like painful for your partner. And then you save yourself that fear of comparison that kind of always lingers as much as you wish it didn't. It's you can't help what they're going to think about what you've done. So, rest assured that if it has happened and like you do have to have that conversation, that we believe in a God of grace and a God that does make us new. And I hope that for any of you guys that's your situation, that you have somebody that understands that and can give you grace. But for those of you, I think back to the question, the benefits of doing it is that you do save yourself those really difficult conversations as well as like the projection that you put on your partner of the idea of comparison.
I think it's like Christians as well, kind of to take a spiritual perspective on this. There's the emotional way, there's the physical things that it can do for us if we are promiscuous in our relationships. But what is the spiritual connotations of a loose life in sexual matters? Like, what does that say in our relationship to God, and why should we protect that?
Sounds like a pastoral question.
What?
Okay, well, Aaron and I both had sexual relationships before we started dating, and we did nothing to set up boundaries really, except for tell each other that we were not going to go there, and went there a lot, and so it muddied what a sexual relationship in marriage is. It made it more about the physicality of it and less about the emotional experience and the spiritual experience of it. And, you could go scientific and talk about the physiological, is that right?
Sounds like you're ready to give us that.
Sounds good enough. The physiological effects that take place when you're engaging in sex with somebody, and there is a connection piece that takes place, and I think it's there because that God really intended for man and woman to be connected, but just to each other, just to one and not to multiple, and so it has it messed us up for a while because sex was something that was forbidden, and it kind of had this I don't know. It was naughty, and so, and that sounds so bad. But now you're married, and it's okay. And now, as a matter of fact, you're married, and it's supposed to be this incredible experience. But for us, it was kind of ruined because we had treated it so poorly for so long in other relationships, and then with each other. And so it took a lot of years, a lot of talking, a lot of tears, a lot of frustration. For us to work through that and pray through that, and even counseling and stuff to get through some of that stuff. It does a lot more damage than you think.
On a spiritual side of things, especially, there's one thing, and I'm talking to the guys and the girls who claim, hey, I'm a follower of Jesus, and I got this, and yet you're going all in, and this is your intention. There's that spiritual side in a relationship where you're saying, hey, look, now my needs are more valuable and more important than how I value you and your system, and also my needs are going to be more important than how I value my God. And so if it's one of those things where you're going in high-handed sin, that's not about a relationship anymore. That's about getting yours, and that puts, the creator less important than the creation, and that puts your partner less important than your urges. And so there's a huge spiritual side of that. I've sat with more couples than I care to count that, hey, we blew it, and that affects the rest of your relationship. Hey, we're getting married. It's going to be okay. We're going to do it, and we're still going to get married. In the back of your mind, we blew it. And if you're the one who kind of initiates that and kind of pushes that, your partner will always know you blew it and you kind of talked me into it. So I'm not saying it's for everybody out there, but I know for some of you, you're kind of on that fence thinking about it. It will always be there. Even if you're married for the rest of your life and you die together, happy in bed like The Notebook, that whole time you knew you blew it. And there's always going to be that where you have to stay and go, yeah. So.
All right, so we're gonna lighten it a little bit. What is the best way / worst way to resolve a conflict? Maybe from an example of an opportunity, humorous in nature, that you have resolved a conflict. Like, yeah.
I'll give you the worst way. Standing on the Pacific Coast Highway and looking her in the eye and getting in your car and driving away.
Ooh.
We're in the middle of it, getting back and forth. I said, oh, really? And I left. That was bad. That was very bad. Only did it once. That was bad.
Because I chased him. I got in my car and I chased him down. Oh. I forced him off the side of the road. I said, you will not ever do that to me again. That was rude. And I was crying and it hurt bad. So it just felt like I was so dismissed. I don't know. I was so mad at you that day. Oh, and another time, we were having an argument. And he left. So he walked out, and I was like, oh my gosh, he just left. We've been married like 2 months. Where is he going? And I go out on the porch, and I said, oh, no, you didn't! Where are you going? You get back up here! We must look like crazy people in this little tiny apartment complex. People are like,
I think the worst way is to say fine and then walk away. I've done that before. And then it calls me on it.
Oh, I'm gonna give it a little wiggle.
Hello? Okay. Oh. No, this is weird. I want to hold it. Awesome.
No?
Yeah. Do you
There we
want
go.
to?
Don't say fine and just walk away. I think that like in your everyday life, you can be really like we can be really passive aggressive, like with people at your job or like people at school that like make you mad, and you're like, yeah, like, yeah, it's fine, and then you're just upset about it the rest of your day. The problem when you're married and you do that is like the rest of your day is with that other person, and so like you're still upset about what's happened the whole time you're there. Like our first marital fight was over a messy kitchen. We had a deal that our deal is that whoever cooks, the other person cleans, to lighten the load. And I learned quickly that my wife makes a gigantic mess when she's cooking anything. She's making peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, and like there's all kinds of stuff outside of the kitchen that like doesn't even belong in there. And then I would come in and have to clean up and be like, we had sandwiches, like what's this rice doing here? And so that happened a couple of times, and I continuously, like, she's gotten way better, I must say. Like, we're 2 years strong, and our kitchen has never looked cleaner. But anyways, I swallowed it for a few days. Like, I was like, gosh, how she makes such a huge mess? Like, we didn't even have that much stuff. Like, none of this gets put away. Rah, rah, rah. And I would just like grump in the kitchen, and I'd be upset the rest of the night. Like we'd watch TV, and like if we went out or did anything, like it was kind of bothered me the whole time, and I didn't say anything about it. And then one night it kind of hit a head, and there was like a huge mess in the kitchen, and I was just like, forget this, I'm not cleaning it. And I like cleaned part of it, and I left it, and I just went and sat down in the living room, and but I didn't say anything still. She came in and was like, how come you didn't clean up the kitchen? And then I just like was like, how come you make a huge mess every time you clean? And I was like, and so that was the wrong way to do it. Like, don't let that build up. Like the same way, I mean, like I think, like I said, in our normal everyday life, we can be really passive aggressive towards people and like let things build up because we probably don't see them as often. But when you live with somebody and it happens over and over and you don't say anything about it, it just builds up resentment in you. And so any kind of conflict you're having, it's important to address it and be honest about how you feel. It doesn't mean that doesn't mean to be mean, but just being honest about how whatever's going on is making you feel. And like that can be harder for dudes, but I was just like, hey, this sucks when you don't clean up. So but I also offered solutions. I wasn't just like be better. I said I was like, hey, if you do like when I cooked, like all we were cleaning up was like our dishes that we use to eat because I clean as I go. And so that was something that I was like, hey, have you ever thought about doing this? Like when you're done with the milk, put it back in the fridge. And that's not like that's not a knock on my wife or anything like that. It was just one of those things that we just needed to communicate on that.
Yeah, that wouldn't work in my house. I wouldn't be able to do that. Ultimately, as far as, hey, why don't you try putting the milk away? She would be happy about that at all. One of the best ways really to resolve a conflict is to be humble and to consider the other person as better than yourself and figure out what it is you're really fighting about, because you'll find that most of the stuff that you argue about in marriage most of the time really has no eternal significance. And it's really not that big of a deal. So if you can humble yourself and just let stuff go, as far as instead of obsessing over the little things, what you're arguing about, huge, and it will go really far in your marriage.
So one of my favorite verses to apply, especially in a relationship, we keep saying marriage, but relationship, seriously, is it says that whatever you do, work at it with all your heart as working for the Lord and not for men or woman, right? So in everything you do in your relationship, you are treating your partner as though they're Christ. That's what that scripture means. In everything that we do, work at it with all your heart as working for the Lord, not for man. So when I look at Jeff in the midst of a conflict, like, am I going to treat him like an imperfect man, or am I going to treat him like I would treat Christ standing in front of me? And I maybe am successful like 0.2%, but if you keep that in mind, you're just going to sail through conflict or lack thereof so much more successfully, and you're going to have just such a better love for each other.
Just a quick little aside from the host here. First year that I was married with Jen, I was a very messy guy. And so the way that she communicated after, a few fights, she communicated that she didn't like that to me by putting it into the mailbox. She put my dirty clothes into the mailbox, and I would discover them going to the mail. And I just laughed, and I realized, okay, this means something for her, for me to be neat and for me to be tidy, and so that actually helped me get the message. So humor is also a wonderful way to settle conflict. All right, we have something else, or we can move on?
Good. Let's move on.
All right. How many of you have thought about being married at one point in your life if you were not currently married? How many of you in here? Say everybody. Pretty much everybody has thought about marriage at one point or another.
It's good.
I see every hand. I see hands. I see in the back. I see in the. All right. So we're gonna talk about what it means to prepare for marriage. How many of you are interested in hearing what that looks like to be prepared for marriage? Okay. All right. What are things you need to be aware of when you prepare for marriage? That's very broad.
You're the boss, dude. Go ahead.
Some stuff to be aware of. Finances. Like having some. As Andrew Pulfer said last year, and it rings true today, and it was so impactful, you have to make more than rent. So it's important that you can make more than rent and have enough to pay the bills. And also, as far as, you want to say anything? 'Cause
I'm processing.
she's processing. We'll come back to you. Anybody else? Finances are important.
Yes, they are very important. And also, I think expectations, like spoken expectations, unspoken expectations, go unmet. And in our preparing for marriage class, it was really fun to, it's funny, whatever. We looked at a list of different things, like in the house, like that we didn't really talk about on a regular basis, like who's gonna pay the bills and who's gonna do the laundry and who's gonna take out the trash, and just things that you don't really think about. And I think that was something that was really nice conversation for the two of us. And we kind of did it separately and then came back together and to see like what each of our expectations were, and then kind of talking about them together. So, and then kind of making those spoken between the two of you.
Compatibility is another one that's huge. There is a different level of compatibility that takes place from dating into marriage. You're living together nonstop. And those little things that kind of bug you now, just wait till you're with them 24/7. The issues that you have in your relationship don't go away when you're married. They actually kind of get worse and they get magnified. So being able to deal with those issues before that you get married is huge, and realizing, okay, am I really compatible with this person? Are we really going to be able to spend the rest of our lives together? And kind of a side note, getting physical too fast and too soon in a relationship oftentimes masks problems and issues that you have in your relationship because you fix it all with just being physical with one another. And so you really don't necessarily know that you're compatible for the long haul. So I would say if you guys are in a sexual or physical relationship, maybe to ease off that, well, for sure to ease off of that, so that you can really figure out if you guys are compatible. What do you guys do in your alone times? Can you conversate? Can you be together and be comfortable without having your hands all over each other? All that stuff is huge, especially, again, when you're living together 24/7, spending every day.
I think for me, and it sounds like so no duh, like you talk about it in the preparing for marriage class, but what type of family you want to have, and although you think, James and his wife have been married for 2 years, or we're gonna wait until we've been married 5 years. Well, she could be pregnant right now, and so you really
She's not.
But you really want to have those conversations, because we've known people that have gotten married. They want to get married when they're 20, and then 3 months later they come up pregnant, and they said we didn't think we would have to think about this or talk about this or prepare for this for a long time. And in Mike and I's case, it was actually the exact opposite, where we can't have kids. We biologically are not able to have our own children. Well, you don't really talk about that, but that's when you're in this infertility world, it's real and it's prevalent, and a lot of people struggle with it. And you don't think you're going to be one of those women, or you don't think you're going to be married to a woman or a man that can't create a biological child. What does that mean? If we're in that position down the line and we want to have kids, what does it mean if we can't? What kind of options are we willing to consider? Things like that. And so when Mike and I found out, we were trying to have a baby for, 6 years or so, and then we had some miscarriage. We've lost some children, and it was a lot of heartache. And it was really heavy, and we didn't have these conversations in the beginning, thinking we wouldn't have this problem. And so we had the conversations about adoption very late into our marriage. And so I would encourage you to just think about it, talk about it. Are you open to adoption, honey? What if we can't have kids? Do you want to adopt, even if we can have kids? What does that look like? Just really having a really united idea of what kind of options you're open to for your family. It's something that, had we been told that in the preparing for marriage class, I think we would have been like, oh yeah, we're open for adoption, but we're going to have 5 kids, and they're going to be cute, and they're going to come out of me. And they didn't, for sure.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing, all of you, from your hearts. We're going to close with this final question about your relationship with the Lord and the health of that relationship and how it affects the health of your relationship with each other.
I'll start, sure. I think, like Aaron said, recognizing that all we do is unto the Lord, and knowing that in our relationship, and keeping that mindset in everything. So part of, the huge part of that is my walk with Him, and my understanding of who He is and how He loves me and how He desires that I treat His daughter, my wife. And so keeping that at the forefront helps me to be able to let things go and love her in spite of imperfection and insecurity and things that she does that frustrate me, that are all human flaws, but I know that God loves me in spite of all of my human flaws and all of my insecurities and all the things that I do wrong. And so maintaining that relationship with Him for both of us is huge in being able to love each other appropriately. And then together, just committing that our marriage is going to be honoring of Him. Committing to that in prayer, committing to that in our personal walks, and in the reading of Scripture, in the opening up of our home to others, in the way that we love the people that God has placed in our life, the way that we serve the community that He's placed us in, and the way that we're willing to take the direction of our life based on His leading, and that we're both submitted to that.
So I would say the healthier my relationship is with the Lord, absolutely the healthier my relationship is with Jeff. And the biggest piece in that is grace. When I am not regularly investing in my relationship with the Lord, which has happened over and over in my life, where I've gone through dry seasons, you can tell automatically in the way that I treat Jeff. And he's not perfect. He's made some mistakes. I've probably made triple that in our marriage, but he is the better half. I will say that now. But, people are going to mess up, and you're going to let each other down, and grace is so radically important, and that you cannot have apart from the Lord. You cannot have true forgiveness and grace for your partner apart from the Lord. And so that's my answer. Goodbye.
I think also for us, it's really important, these couples have said it much better than I could, because I'm a little tongue-tied. But one thing that I really notice when I'm like Aaron said, going through some sort of downtime or feeling a little bit distant from the Lord, is my patience, just in general, sucks. And my patience with him is like the worst. And that's like the worst. That's the worst way to treat your spouse, you know, and especially one like Mike. I mean, I have the most amazing husband who loves me and loves our kids and loves his church kid. You know, he's just an amazing guy. And I sometimes struggle with the patience piece, and that's not fair. So I see that that's where I start to fall a little bit when I'm distant from the Lord. So I can get myself in check because we can instantly pick up. Mike's like, have you listened to some praise worship lately? Or you're a little bitey.
I have never used that term. Some praise and worship.
Something like that.
I think it's understanding that there is no separation. You know, I don't have my God relationship and my relationship with my wife and my relationship with my kids. It is all encompassing. So when I'm dishonoring to my wife, I'm dishonoring to my God. When I'm dishonoring to my God, ultimately I'm dishonoring to my wife too, because as I'm sinning or being a punk or whatever, that negativity and that sin is going to affect our relationship. It's going to, affect our kids. It's going to affect the way we do everything we do. And I don't care how hard. There are times you just kind of bite your teeth and like, I'm going to fake it through even though I'm kind of, screwing up right now. You can't hide it. It just kind of trickles out. And so it's one of those things that I have found myself thinking, okay, wow, I just really blew up at my wife. What's going on, and kind of having to backtrack. You know what, I haven't spent time with God, or you know what, I'm so pissed off at these people right now and I'm holding grudges, and that's just coming out in my heart. And so it's really one of those things that I had to realize that everything is integrated and it is all one thing. And it's not like I hang out with God here and my wife here and my kids there and work here. It's just this is who you are, because eventually if you're trying to segment, man, something's going to fall apart and it's going to affect all of them. So,
if the Lord is number one in my life and number one in her life, then he's number one in our relationship. And so much of what we do, like Mike said, there's no separation. This is our life. This is who we are. And when we've begun to place our flesh first, when I begin to put me as number one, or she's begin to put her as number one instead of the Lord, it affects everything we do in life. It affects the decisions we make for our family. It affects the decisions we make with our finances. Whereas if we are both in tune with God and putting that relationship first, then when it comes to making a financial decision, we are doing so biblically, and we're doing so by the leading with God's direction. When the Holy Spirit is present in our life, there's patience, and there's the fruit of the Spirit. There's the patience, and there's forgiveness, and there's grace, and there's joy. And you can easily tell in our household if we are both not going for the Lord, because there is not joy in the house, there's not patience in the house, there's not grace in the house. There's frustration, there's anger, there's some bitterness at times. And for us, we're parents. And so we're raising our children in an environment that if the Spirit of God isn't present and alive there, then that affects not only our marriage, but it affects their upbringing and who they are as people. And so it's a good habit to be in now, in your relationships now, as yourselves as individuals now, that the Lord is number one, so that when you get in that relationship, the Lord stays number one, so that when you're in that marriage, the Lord is number one, so that when you have kids, the Lord is number one. And again, it can be felt if it's not there, but that's why it's so important for the Lord to remain first and foremost in each of our lives.
Let's say a word of prayer, and we're gonna invite our good friend up here to give us some announcements.